All right. Hey, thanks for tuning in. It's Wednesday when I do my contribution streams, and I'm going to be working on phpstan-drupal again, and going to go through a few open issues and then get to some feature development on this Drush command idea I have. So first is a follow-up from last week. We added a release that looks for access checks to be called on entity queries. But there appears to be what do you want to call it? A regression based on when it's called. So this produces an error, and this, but not this. So access check has to be called after count for it to appear. Um, so when calling access check on its own line is not working things out correctly. So luckily we do have an open PR, and unfortunately the Thunder distribution did make some workarounds to work for it. So hopefully we can tackle that in this PR. So I did look at it a little bit ago, and when query access check is okay, the type of query is not called, and we try to look at what doctrine does, because this is like a hard problem to solve. Is internally we need to know if a flag was set on an object, but there's no way to actually know if it was set or not, because it doesn't do anything. Well, phpstan doesn't run the code. Doing this in the PR and merge the fix for the other case. Quickly update for all quick fixes for this. All right, so I'm going to actually review what's going on in here and then look at doctrine. So right now we have it where, let's pull up the current code base. Return type extension. Here we go. So query interface for count or execute. So what's the difference here? So here, the difference is we already have var type instance of, oh, so it's essentially a check ahead of time for it. If it's an entity query type, return entity count query type. If has access check, return with. If var type has access check, return that. All right. So you know what? This might actually be an interesting time to use this PR. So let's open this. I don't need this view of it, but let's. Right. This makes it easier to read. So in the dynamic return type extension, we're adding a shortcut because right now right now it blows away. Once you call count, it blows away any previous information about the variable type. So if it is already an instance of entity query type, we return that as a count type. We just don't check if it has return type. If var type has access check, do we need to handle it down here then too before access? No, because it should be already known. Sorry about the big old cup. My wife wanted to get me a coffee and they only had venti cups, so apparently they just gave a venti instead of a normal size. All right. So I guess this is okay. My brain is just figuring out if we can be more elegant, and I don't know if there is a way to. So let's look at this diff for the fixture count. So this verifies that it's in different angles, different positions. That access check can come before or after count, and we get the same difference, and the tests are passing. Now let's see. What I want to do, let's check this out locally. If I go to the extension type, what was that test called again? Entity query with access rule, which we have a test for it. Rules. Entity query has access check rule. Let's run it locally. I'm going to comment out the fix and then see what happens. I'm getting an error, unable to detect Drupal. Let's rerun it. I need to figure out why that happens locally, but it only happens to me, not in the CI and on the first run after a while, so I don't really dig into it too much. All right, so that passed. So let's go short circuit this a bit, and we'll just comment these out, and then it should fail. All right, so it did not register correctly, because there should be no errors. What I'm thinking of is, what if we do this? If we do instance of and var type has access check. No, yeah, I want to do. Because then we can just say if so this way, if we get a count, oh, this should be return. And actually, what I think we could do is if not, wait a second. Before we even worry about this, count, execute. If default return type instance of object type, we can just do a return default. We can do a short circuit return. Ditch this. And there we go. So if the var type is an entity query type, we can return has access check. Otherwise, we just do the return type. We'll do the default return type, which wraps the entity query as a query count. Potentially polymorphic call. Let's see what, well, let's see what the tests say. With this refactor. Access rule test. So, yeah, so all these should pass. 2. Oh. Without access rule, they do pass, which means that I definitely broke something here. How did this manage to break it? Because with access check just clones it. I want to step through this one really quick. I'm not sure how that broke it. Because that's the wrong condition. That's why. Never mind. I did this wrong. It should be, it's if var type is not instance of object type, bail out. I had the wrong. I had the wrong logic built in there. So now this should be okay. And this is refactored just a little bit to make it a little bit, I don't know, not cleaner, but wouldn't necessarily say cleaner, but it just works. So here we go. That's all from before, and this should fix that code. Since entity query type, I'm gonna do a quick cleanup. I need to get, why isn't phpcs warning about unused imports? Let's see. Make sure unused imports are reported by phpcs. Noticed a few unused imports and they're not being flagged. All right, so we'll create that issue. There. How's it going? PHP doesn't do, oh, that's a coder feature. Okay. I think if I were to get this low mat, that's a horrible typo. The level mat coding standards, I bet this would fix it, or rather would help improve it. So I'm actually going to find that issue I made. Probably use, there we go, let's comment that. Thank you. I forgot that that's a coder feature, a rule that's being added in. And I'm going to just quickly commit these changes. Oh, that's interesting. So I went ahead, it's unchecked. Command K goes to make the commit and automatically stages your changes. Did not know that. Well, I knew Command K brought you to the commit message. I didn't realize it automatically staged all of your changes for you. So you could quickly do a commit. And let's just say, let's see. So this is the PR. What commit did they use? Oh, you're right, because it requires more knowledge of it being used or not, which phpstan should be reporting that too. I thought it did. But I could be wrong. In this case, I probably am wrong. Let's just give a commitment. Revise. Not simplify. Adjust logic when returning entity count type with count type with access. Just call it that. I don't need to be a fancy commit message. Now let's do phpstan detect unused imports. I thought it did this. phpstan. Friends of phpcs. For private properties methods, you can use our coding standard. Okay. Private attributes not being used. We'll try this coding standard then. Seems like that's going to be the way to go. And let's wait for this to come back. All right, the tests are running. And that's right, I updated this to be the fancy flow. So once the tests are done, then we do the build tests. Let's go find, okay, why were we talking about doctrine? Type specifying won't help here. It seems like the whole idea with specific entity types in code does not help those cases. That's exactly it. phpstan doctrine, how they handle row count method, did not want to click that link. They only support chaining methods. Okay, but where? Oh, count or executed. So here, object type, query builder type. While they're, oh, so in here, they really do go through like every single chained command. So our approach is to look on different methods and manipulate the internal type of the internal, well, what do you want to call it? The internal representation of the object. And here, they actually loop through the chained calls, which is something that we could do. We could add support for that at the end. So if execute, we have no idea what it is. We could try to just go further up the chain. Let's see. Interesting. For what PHP stan doctrine does, I wonder if we should try that out and instance misses from. So that would be an interesting approach if we did a, so while var method callback var type if is super of, so if it's not that, name identifier to string select add select return type combinator while var. Where does it replace var? Oh, here it does. So it keeps going further up. So it goes from execute and basically works its way back up the tree to the root call, which is a very interesting approach that I think we could leverage inside phpstan-drupal more. But I do not have the time to look at that. So let's create an issue, because then it's tracked, it's logged somewhere, new issue. I thought they added a new way to feature preview. Request tree. Oh, I thought they created a new way to make issues where it open a modal, like in what do you want to call it? Like Jira does. I open it, settings in a new tab really quick to just see if it's a canceled. Never mind. I don't have my UB key on me right now. Okay, so handle entity. What's this called again? Access rule. What is this class called? An access check rule on entity query access type. Where's the return type? Entity query return type extension. That's not it. It's the entity storage dynamic return. No. It is this. Okay. Use while unchained methods and execute when I'll just do that. So in the return type extension, we check for various instances. If any fail, we could try what phpstan doctrine does by using a while loop to find the root. And I'm just going to link this. See. All right. So just link that because it's at least captured. And I'm going to merge this then. Actually, just review the files changed. Yep. Clean that up. Clean that up. Cool. So let's merge it. And now at least I'll be able to do a release today to clean this up. I do want to try to get as much ready for DrupalCon as I can, which is sneaking up. It's already in 2 weeks. So I don't know what we'll get, but I want to just have this ready to go if people are using phpstan at the sprints to get bugs cleaned up. So I'll look at this in a second. I opened an issue earlier about being able to disable rules via flags. And this ties to 295, where in the documentation, I say that you can enable rules.neon yourself, but that file doesn't exist. And with PHP extension installer, it just registers everything automatically. If we looked at phpstan Symfony, you can see what I mean. Symfony has a rules.neon and extension.neon. So the extension sets up the stub files, the schema, the services, and then the rules are all the additional rules that provide analysis. But inside composer.json, for the phpstan installer, the includes registers both files. So if you want to use the installer to simplify your setup, you're also getting all the rules. And there might be things that folks don't want, like Drupal core might want to opt out of some of the rules that are in here because it doesn't apply to Drupal core. It applies more to code inside of contrib or client. Like in this case, one thing is class extends internal class rule. Drupal core, this basically says if you extend classes across namespaces, it throws an error, but Drupal core, it might allow Drupal core modules to use internal core code across namespaces. And there's no way to easily turn these on or off. They just get registered in the rules, and that's about it. And somebody would then you would have to manually apply these yourself. You know, the plugin manager says catch backend rules. Some people might not want this. They may not want these rules. And what was brought up is that you could just ignore errors. So I'm just going to reply, you're correct. They could if I moved the rules to a rules.neon and updated the composer.json to bundle both as part of extension installer, then they could choose not to use that package to exclude the rules. So I think maybe that's a good way to go next. Is I'm going to actually create this rules.neon file and update the code. So let's go to main and create a new branch. That's not it. Go new branch. Hey, Boomer Frank. Is the idea with the flag to provide a php.neon parameter that could cause a rule to always pass it? It basically to add a configuration. So you could say, you know, like in here, that's not. And here you could say disable internal code checks. True. phpstan has some checks like this, like report unmatched ignored errors. Essentially, creating flags like this to disable some of phpstan's rules or phpstan-drupal's rules, since when you use extension installer, it's all or nothing. And finding a way to keep the extension installer, because it makes quality of life so much better when using phpstan without necessarily getting all of the rules in phpstan-drupal, since it's not like there's a committee deciding what's best. It's kind of like like the plugin constructor stuff I added 5 years ago. Yeah, so that's that. But I'll take this question real quick. Can I ask a quick question? Yes. I'm working on in a service and I need to add a redirection. It's not a controller or block file, just a service class. What's the Drupal way to do it? Well, the way to do it is not this. So one, never do what have I seen? I've seen people do not necessarily this way. Renew, redirect, response. Don't do this. Please never do this. Never send the request directly. What you could do, and I think I've seen done, or this is the approach that I go through. The docs are not helpful in this, but no, it is. Know where the example is rules. The rules module. I'll link this in the chat. So usually the approach that I do is your service would so it's kind of hard not knowing the exact context because there's 5,000 ways that this could happen. But here's what you could do is your service could have the request injected in it, and essentially just whenever your service is invoked and it's like, you know what, when this is all said and done, you need to redirect elsewhere. That's what this logic does, is it checks if the request had an attribute flagged on it. So what you would do is your service does its business logic and then flags the request with an attribute that says redirect here, give like a route name or something else, and then an event subscriber, which could also be your service, by the way. Your service could also be an event subscriber that implements this, that it has a method that does things, and then at the end checks to do more things via the event subscriber. So then you just listen on the response, and that allows your service to also override the response with a redirect. This is the appropriate way. So that way Drupal's response flow or request handling, whatever you want to call it, is properly goes through its normal workflow. Because if you do this, you're breaking everything about Drupal. You're terminating the request early, which means that some caches won't write and everything else just gets super messy. I agree. This is not documented well. I have explained this about 50 times, and I don't think we even have something in Drupal Commerce. Drupal Commerce, add to cart, redirect. Like, is this a thing? Did it finally end up somewhere? Rules, commerce. No. Bypass cart and go directly to checkout. Commerce checkout redirect. That's old. That's old as well. It's D7. All right. I can't think of a good example, but that is what I would do. Service, flags request, set up an event subscriber that checks the request for that flag and replaces the response with the redirect response. Well, the wrong way that Form API does it isn't completely wrong. Like, it is, but it's not. There's the, and we do this in Drupal Commerce as well. So that everybody knows what they're talking about, is enforced redirect exception, I believe it's called. No, enforced response. So what the form API does is, because forms are a process where the form's built and then it's submitted, and Drupal actually does a post but then redirects with a 303 to 303 3 something to then process. Either way, it needs to do, it throws this exception which forces a response to be handled. And inside Drupal Commerce, we actually have this 302. Thank you, 302. We actually have in here, response. So we actually have a needs redirect exception inside Drupal Commerce. So you can throw this. We use this for payment gateways, right? Like checkout, you hit the payment page. It's for an offsite payment gateway you need to redirect. So we actually have an exception that lets you pass the URL, because if it's an external URL, it needs to be a trusted redirect response, which means it can get cached, which is absolutely horrible in a checkout experience. You don't want to have a cached redirect to somebody else's PayPal checkout. So we have this helper here, and that's the alternative, is you can throw this needs redirect exception, but I would only do that if the page has done no work. That sounds really awkward to say, but that's the truth. So basically, like, your controller says, hey, actually, you need to go over here. Or rather, not even your controller, your form. Again, this is all for forms, because forms can't control the returned response. It's a whole thing. But yeah, the correct way, do like that rules code, the event subscriber, flag the request, check the request for the flag, swap the response for a redirect if it's there. There we go. And that might be something good to write about, because as another aside, like I forgot that load by properties bypasses entity query access checks. So I wrote a blog post about it, and then it was suggested to create a rule for that. Because load by properties, you could load entities that the user doesn't have access to, which honestly for 95% of Drupal sites is okay. But if you're using group, Drupal commerce, node access grants, like a more robust website that has granular controls of access to entities based on user roles or other properties, it's a big deal. Like it's a big gaping security risk. We'll say security risk. It's just like content access bypasses. Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead and I'm gonna create a one sec PHP stand symphony. I'm just gonna make sure I copy this pretty verbatim. So yeah, rules.neon, literally going to copy the file name. It's a new file, rules.neon. Let's add it. Just want to make sure I don't botch this off the bat. So go to php extension.neon. So we're going to copy this right out. Ooh. Cut. Paste. Cut that right out. Update the composer.json to have, I know it's going to be rules.neon. So this will allow people to manually wire up phpstan-drupal and exclude the rules. Okay, just reading those warnings really quick. Well, that's weird. This is still working, even though it's hijacking the phpstan namespace. Oh, because it's a core package. Never mind. Support core, but I wouldn't add anything for very. Excuse me. Just reading the chat really quick. So a post brought up at work today was a good gotcha. Even the senior dev was unaware of. Yeah, I don't think many people would be aware of the load by properties thing. Because unless you've had to work with entity access before, right? Unless you've been in and that's my realm with Drupal commerce, orders have entity query access to prevent users from seeing other user orders, etc., etc. So it's just part of the working experience. And like I said, 95% of the time, I don't think Drupal developers really hit complex access restrictions. I want to write a follow-up blog post that says replace load by properties with like a repository pattern. So create your own like service that's a repository for working with the current user and the storage to fetch entity types. To abstract away from having to write entity queries over and over again, like take that business logic, put it into a repository, boom. All right, so there's the rules there. Now, let's see. I'm going to make a comment. Modeling after phpstan Symfony. So following features, extension, configuration, manual extension. So where does it say rules.neon? If you don't want to start, you can just don't include rules. So I'm going to delete this and review their README and just overhaul this. Not raw. Let's go. On the other, the flags, using it to support core. But we wouldn't add for every little thing. Yeah, I wouldn't add for every little thing, but just more of the controversial rules is the one idea, like the load by properties. And that's honestly what phpstan does itself. It has like generic class and non-generic object type, check missing iterable value type, report unmatched ignored errors. Actually, this should be removed. But something like this, like these kind of flags, like check for like load by properties, something of that nature. So let's see. Oh, that's right. You can like mix HTML in markup. Forgot that. So I'm totally just gonna steal this part because it says it'll be automatically included. Manual installation. Which would be vendor Glommen, phpstan-drupal. Perform. To include Drupal specific analysis rules, add the following. Let's say include this file. Now, the one problem I see with splitting this out is it would not include the deprecations. So manual installations. Note. You will also need, whatever. If somebody's going to go that route, they already know the dangers they're getting in, so I'm not going to get too particular about it. I think that works fine. So if somebody really wants to get custom, now they can, because before they could not. Before they could not do that. So that's at least one win. Where's a JSON? Extension neon. That's an irrelevant change, so let's just remove that. The README and the rules. Move rules to rules.neon. Commit and push. Push anyway. Now, if I go to pull request, back to list, and to plus sign, this fixes allows manual configuration without extension installer and cherry picking rules. Let's get the pull request. Not an ice cube. What would be interesting for IntelliJ to do is with GitHub, the command line tool, it auto populates the PR title based off the commit. Be nice if their UI did that as well. So that way you can just have your PR title ready to go. Because most cases it does match the first commit. And it's already failing. I should have known. PHP unit. Uh-oh. Module test rule. Get by type. Oh. Yeah, why is this one so different? I can't remember why. Load include base. Oh, because the constructor needs, so rule test case, additional configurations. Here we go. Rules.neon. So I should be able to verify this locally by running the test. Hello, hello. All right, so let's make sure, unable to type Drupal. Let's rerun this and see test coverage. It's always a great thing to have. Test rule. Let's just do git diff, git add, test fixtures config, git amend. I'm going to do a force push because I don't want to have a commit just for saying I screwed up and didn't run the test locally. All right, so let's get this going. That'll close this issue, and then I got like a postpone for now. I'm not sure if I want to deal with that, and if it's even necessary. But I like having issues available. Like whenever I have a thought, I like creating an issue because one, I forget things very fast, and I forget that I had ideas. And two, it's a way to get like a feedback from the community. So it's like having an RFC, request for comment, without publicizing it. Um, just say I got this idea. It's going to sit in the backlog, and if other people happen to like view the issues, or, like watch the project, which is cool. There's 8 people who are watching it. I don't know what on level, but they can help provide feedback on that. Or one of these live streams, I'm like, oh yeah, this issue's been sitting. I haven't worked on it because I want feedback. I know I can go to Twitter and say, hey, I need some thoughts on this. Like, what do you dislike the most about phpstan-drupal? But given that Thunder, Open Social, Previous Next, Nine Media, tons of other companies are using this and aren't really yelling at me, I think we're okay. Yeah, they can dump their use case like, wow, your rule is stupid. Well, using nicer words. Like, this thing is causing grief at our company and we're sick of ignoring it all the time. Can we just turn it off? Like, great. All right, let's do that then. Let's turn it off because it's frivolous, or make a way to opt out of it more easily. Because I do believe that the extension installer is like integral for having phpstan to work, just because of deprecation rules, PHP unit, phpstan-drupal having the phpstan prophecy extension. There's like an exceptions extension. There's all kinds of goodies, and having to manually wire those up is too much. So I want to improve developer life, not make it more painful. All right, so this has got 2 checks in progress. This will be closed when I merge that ticket. And then I'm going to work on this PHPCS. And then now give me about an hour to work on this Drush command, while making sure that a few goodies get shipped out this week. Come on. There we go. Oh, that's right. Now it's the build integration. I'm glad I added this flow, but at the same time, I'm not, because it makes it take a little bit longer. But this should be pretty quick too. So what I can do, well, clear that. To check out main. What I can do is not close out that PR and start on 387. And let's get this wired in. Because right now, just have composer JSON, we just have code sniffer and I thought the installer for it. Oh, config allow plugins. I have it globally. That's why. Which I don't know if you're supposed to have it as a dev dependency or installed globally. Maybe this will say here. So functional cleaning, formatting, installation. So let's do composer require -- dev relative path from PHP source location. What about? Here we go. Oh, do they have that as a dependency? I did not have it as a. Holy cow, that's big. They do. They have it as a dependency, so I don't even need to worry about reading this. So installation. Recommended ways to write your rule set.xml by the only related sniffs, which I've done. So let's just call this phpstan-drupal is the rule set name. Config, installed paths. Don't need that rule ref. Let's just see. Let's see. Rule ref psr2. I want to get phpstan. Just do the normal where I reference what other people have done and copy it. The rules has been passed. Let's merge it. Delete your branch. phpcs.xml. Oh, interesting. Config. Let's rehaul this. So this should actually be 7.4 because I believe my minimum is 7.4. So we want to keep 7.4 support. I assume that means colors extensions, PHP, ignore. Well, dang, I've never really dove into the PHP CS so much. It just says PSR2. Which this is not at all used. Let's go ahead and try out tests. So test should actually be source. And then ignore test data. We want to ignore any test data. Assistance. All right, let's find the easiest implementation here. Config, installed paths. Oh, I just want to include all of it. Extensions, encoding, colors. Sure. Let's copy all of this. Declare first line. You can also mention it in your rule set and exclude only some diffs. Okay, that's what I want. I just want to include it and ignore some diffs, and I'll build it along the way. So I guess it's just that. So PHP or PHP vendor bin PHP CS. see here. Suspended one line before declare. Expected to do. All right, what I'm going to do is revert part of this. Right there, and oh, because the test never had any. So I'm going to ignore that for now. Because I was only running it in source on PHP for lint. I can just run PHP CS. Okay, we had no errors. I can slowly improve that. Choose which sniffs to run. Sniffs including the standard parameter type hint. Unused. Cleaning dead code. So how do we add this? Sniffs. Okay, so let's go ahead and add in cleaning, detecting dead code. I wish there was like just one rule that just included all of these. Like this is the main thing I want is just all the dead code. I'm curious, how does I want to see if namespaces, fully qualified name and annotation, fully qualified exceptions, reference names only, useless aliases, use spacing. What does this do? Well, I guess I'm just going to already put it there. So just start there, I guess. I guess it's just start on that. But let's also fully qualified class name and annotation. Yeah. Oh, exclude consistence. Invalid format. That's right. That's a different package. Alphabetically sourced. Yes. I also want namespaces to be alphabetically sorted. I couldn't believe it. There's something that just made me like go in on Twitter as somebody apparently they this doesn't have a lot in it. Like I just can't believe people do this and it drives me nuts. They sort this by length instead of alphabetically, and they do it from top to shortest. So they've got it like they organize it like this, and it made my skin crawl because it's not alphabetical. Like their ordering is purely longest to shortest, and I just don't know. That was just one thing I was like, oh no. I mean, it's fine in the long run because your IDE should collapse them, but like whatever makes your development day happier. Declare strict types. I do want this one. Reference usernames only. Yeah, it was a Laravel thread. It was a Laravel thread. There's lots of about Laravel I love. But then there's some things I'm just like, I don't know. I don't know. All right. Let's rerun phpcs. And I'm going to clean this up. Actually, let's do. So now that I've got this set up, I'm following PSR2. I've got some additional goodies. That's good enough for me. Yeah, both sides definitely do. Inspect code. So now that I've got my PHP configured with some extra goodies, I'm going to use phpstarm's built-in code inspection. And that's going to run more than just PHP but it makes it easier for me to dive in and start fixing these things along the way while I look at other things that I like to see. PSR1. So there's no PSR2 in here. So yeah, I am definitely just picking and choosing and checking things out since I don't want to use the main one verbatim. So that's interesting. Why is PHP version set to 7.1 when PHP Stan itself, I'm pretty sure, requires PHP 8.1 for development, or PHP 8 for development? I wonder if it also does analysis against the build. But see. All right, so still inspecting the code. Well, while that's going, the other thing I wanted to work on was this Drush command. And the idea is that the Drush command will help you automatically configure your phpstan.neon for your project based off of the entities you have in your site, which means that you have to run it against a site that's has access to the database. So Drush needs to be able to bootstrap the website. And what it could do, okay, there, that's opening. So fixtures, config. So like in here, it would allow audit populating the Drupal root. Actually, that might be a bad idea. But not that, but parsing the .neon file and generating the entity mapping for you. One thing I'd like to do is limit the amount of is know what modules you have installed, and then it restricts extension discovery to just those modules that are installed instead of analyzing everything and loading all the services, which could actually help cover accessing services which aren't available. So if you call a service that is provided by a module which isn't analyzed, it could warn you. The problem is about, like, in commerce, we have conditional dependencies, so we got to figure out how that would look. So it would be just be a cool start. So let's do code style. Is this no? I dislike this rule, and I don't know if this is coming. That's coming from PHP Storm. Where is? Do I not have PHP running on this? Yeah, or well, a broken experimental module, it would only. Oh yeah, it wouldn't break it because it's not installed. I get it. I get it. I get it. I get it. Correct. That would be the idea. Is that where am I looking for? Code smell. That's code smell. Where is quality tools? Oh, why did this get turned off? Triple practice, PHP stand. I turned it off for some reason, and I'm not sure why, but I guess I'm just going to have to go through and manually fix these. Clear strict types 1, 5. Oh, look at all these unused classes. See, this is requiring 7.4, so I'm good to use that. I can't wait for constructor property promotion. Field list reflection expected. Oh no, what? I don't like that. I don't want to have to put spaces between it. What is this? There's like a tools code refactor. Hold on. Run. There's a code, and what you can do is optimize imports, and that will sort things alphabetically for you in phpstorm itself. Quick, I'm totally gonna go back to here. Types. So let's go find strict types. The clear on first line is true. Line count. So we'll do property name value equals 0. I think that should then fix that warning. No, what? How? One second. I just read this. Equals 1 equals 0. Well, I guess. Wait, how did field item list property reflection? And here I am wasting time on this. But I will figure this out. Yeah, properties. Actually, that comment had something interesting in it. Not as strict, but PSR12 compatible. Oh, that's right. There's PSR12, which superseded PSR2. It's a whole other thing. I'm curious about. Well, that just seems broken. So you know what? We are going to allow it, and I guess my code is going to have this now in it. Fields via magic. And a field reflection. You know what? I'm making frivolous changes and going down a rabbit hole, so I'm just going to remove that because that's not worth the time right now. Oh, I have not looked at PSR 12, and that's kind of a bummer. Well, I guess not a bummer, but expected if it feels kind of icky, because I'm sure there's just things that there's things about PSR 12 I don't even, or PSR 2 I don't like. Let's see. Ditch this rule. For instance, I've never been a fan of curly brackets on the next line because it never folds right in any IDE. Like every IDE, folding is absolutely garbage when it's on the next line. What is optimize import? Optimize import, Control Option O. Sweet. Brokers not used. Command Option O. Plugin annotation context definition. Command Option O. Oh shoot! Optimize imports also removes unused imports, so that just makes this so much easier. Command Option O. Is there a way I can just like optimize the imports for this entire directory? Right click, refactor. No, I wish. Render callback rule. Command O. I think I could if I, let's see, code. Optimize imports. Well, look at that. It's right there. I just had to select a directory. Learn something new today. Like, I should have known that was possible considering, like, Java. That's all I think about is Java. And having to optimize all that and, like, clean up imports. And since phpstan is built on IntelliJ, should have just known. Alright, so what rules are we adding? Keeping PSR2, eventually bumped to PSR12, but unused uses, a bunch of the extra junk. Wow, a lot of this had leftover code. Let's go. Start using rules from go. Push 387. Come on, analysis. All right, come on. So I want to get to this next step. Type, there we go. 5 warnings. I'm just going to push anyway. Pull request. Let's go back to the list. So I wish there was like a refresh button. New. Start using rules. Fixes 387. Create the pull request. And we'll go view it. Now, what I want to do is, let's go check out main. Let's update it. All right, so this will be fixed and the Drush command to get generated. So what I'm going to do is I have this contrib environment, Drupal site. Let's go ahead and I'm going to register. Type is path, not package. And that path is is it still URL? Yeah. So even though it's a path, it's still a URL. So what I'm going to be able to do is it's going to just reference the local package because I already have phpstan-drupal required here. So let's do a composer update. We'll see how horrible that goes since I haven't opened this contrib dev environment on my personal computer in a long time. All right, so that's good. Builds are passing. Wait, what? Hold on. Oh, what am I looking for? Dev main as, right? I think that's it. What do I do here? 1 second. I know I had to fix this before with the integration tests. Test build integration. 10.x.dev. Ah, here we go. It's as, so to do dev main as 1.99. And that will alias it as a version, which should allow me to downloading. Wait, what did it just say? phpstan PHP unit, upgrading, removing, installing. There we go. Symlinking. Great. So now I can go ahead and make a new branch. Oh, just locked it all up. What I need to do, let's go to drush.org. And author. So author here means authoring commands. And what we want to do is create an auto-discovered command. And this will allow us to put commands in phpstan-drupal, and it'll be available to the Drupal site. So that's finished. This should be set up default. Settings.local. It should be using SQLite, I hope. No, I did not set that up. Why can't I think off the top of my head the easy way to configure this? CD Drupal CD Drupal sites contrib kanban web sites default cat settings local. Well, that's not it. Oh, it wasn't there. I'm settings.php. Or I really did remove it. That's memcache. Well, let's do it the easy way. So php vendor bin drush. So install. I think it has a shortcut for using SQLite instead. Yeah, I guess this is it. This will be PHP vendor and Drush SI. Let's do the demo umami. SQLite. Oh, I actually have. I guess I could have just copied that in the long run. Not really. Shoot. It quit. Oh man. It went to there and then whatever. As long as it installs, that's all that matters. Okay, so this pass, I'm just gonna merge it, and we need to do auto discovered command. So source. So we need to have a namespace of Drush commands. So my custom library Drush commands. So now that means in here, right? So mglommen phpstan-drupal maps to source. So we have to have a directory called Drush commands. Well, I always wonder, like, why is it too deep? Class file ends in Drush commands. Let's do new file phpstan-drupal drush commands.php. I really like this feature, but I'm not a fan of the verbosity behind it, where it's drush commands and then blah 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 ends in drush commands instead of just like command file or commands. But I'm just excited to have it. Extends. So what should this do? Where's an example? I know what an example is. I blogged about it. Extends drush commands. Which I think could cause problems. Oh, this could cause some serious problems. What absurdity did I give my namespace? So bad. Oh, that's just so bad. Drush commands. I just realized that this is going to put a requirement on Drush 10 or 11 as a dependency. Oh no. Shoot. Well, no, it'll just be a class that exists, but it won't do anything. That's right. It won't do anything. I'll keep it as required dev, and it's just one that the command class won't do anything if Drush doesn't exist. So Drush will remain a dev dependency because it won't do anything unless it exists. And it suggests, yeah. Well, I don't know. This every Drupal site has Drush. My fear is just I now have to be very careful of anything I put in require because Drupal core will now have it as a dependency if I add it. So I don't think I need to put in suggest because everybody has Drush. But no, because I don't. It doesn't show suggest anymore. Maybe I will. Maybe I will in the future. And I realized I closed my blog post, and I don't even know how this works without it. So let's do. I can't use PHP attributes, so that's sad. Did I make an example of this without attributes? Sure did not. So let's just Swing it public function generate. It's a void. Let's get to documenting this. Drush.org. So I know I need to bootstrap Drupal to level full and run this command here. Let's go to the authoring. Attributes and annotations. Wish we could use attributes. So let's do command is phpstan-drupal generate. I don't like that word, but let's just go for it right now. I guess that's it. It's just that's the command. No, that's not the command. Bootstrap. What's the bootstrap annotation? Bootstrap full. So with that, I should be able to copy this sample code then. And now if I go to here, let's go sites, default files, mark as excluded. So if I do php vendor bin drush, it should detect my command. Oh. This IO. Oh man, my code has a typo in it. 1 second. You're about to see the back end of my personal site. Come on. Which is a hot mess of a website. This used to be a WordPress site, migrated to Drupal 7, migrated to Drupal 8, and migrated to Drupal 9. And it is officially a Frankenstein, and I need to figure out updating it for Drupal 10 and CK Editor 5. So it went from Tiny MCE to CK to I think Tiny MCE in Drupal 7 to CK Editor in Drupal 8. There we go. That should be all better. All right, but I'm done with that for now. Man, what is the scanning right now? Everything? So let's rerun this command again. The good part is we errored, which means it was found, and ta-da, look at that. These are all the installed items, or all the installed entity types. So what we could do is now have so set up, or not generate, we should call it configure. I want to call it configure. And what we should do is phpstan.neon. Let's start with a how do we know the just commands, process manager, exec traits, logger aware, just style, print file. That gets the stack for Guzzler. I'm just curious about the this config. No, the working directory. I guess we'll do print or this IO right line real path Get current working directory. I should have commented out all the entity stuff. All right, so I guess the current working directory is based on Drupal. There's the Drupal web root, but we need it to be the project root. And for that, I have no idea how we could find that out. One thing we can do, let's go look at Drush source. There's got to be a command. Commands. Like if we go Drush status. So status. There's the Drupal root. I guess we'd have to take the phpstan.yaml as a path, as an argument. But I don't know if that would work because of our working directory. What I was hoping is that this would find the root pull path from Drupal root. We don't want to get the Drupal root. Drupal directory command. What's this? Return to file system path. Oh, what's this? Target. This get path. Host path create. Oh. That's, well, the thing is that I'd like it to read from the existing one, but maybe that's a good way to start. Yeah, that's a good way to start. Just prints it to standard out. I don't know how to pronounce std out correctly, but I always read it as standard out. I think that would be the way to go. Because otherwise, there's this path alias, evaluated path, fully qualified path. Yeah, we're just gonna print it out. Let's call this configure, and we'll do to do add option to write to path. So we got, is this still indexing? It's the one thing that kind of stinks is when you have two instances of phpstorm running, and if one's indexing, it does impact the usability of the other instance. It makes sense. I just wish it wasn't so. So parameters. So we'll default to, I'm pushing the Drupal community to move to level 2 by default. So I want to push that. Paths. Just web. Actually, we'll just say web. Make another to do. Use Drupal Finder for doc root, which we could use Drupal Finder to get the find phpstan itself. Use Drupal Finder to locate. No, because they could be storing config anywhere, so let's not assume. So we have the paths to there, and what else could be configured? We don't necessarily want to run the Drupal root. Well, maybe we do. This is gonna make me think about all the stuff I don't remember. So real path to Drupal root. No, we don't want to generate that. We want that to be configured. Is by default, it is based on the current working directory. Yeah, so the current working directory. So Drupal root, it goes and discovers Drupal from the current working directory. We don't necessarily want to provide an override for that, but what we do want to do is, now the good question is, I guess it's not really a question. We know that this gets merged. Fixtures, config, this entity mapping, layers on top of it. Our arrays seem to be merged in. I'm still not entirely sure. So let's make that a to-do. To-do. Can we have this override everything phpstan-drupal provides, or is it a merge? It's a good place just to start on it. So let's ignore this, and for each get definition. What's the mapping look like? So for definition, let's do parameters, entity mapping is definition ID equals, so class is definition get class, which, okay, yeah, that avoids bundle classes are determined into storage, so that's not going to break that method, which then we can do storage class. Let's do access. I'm just going to get access control class. What are other common ones? What else do we have in here? View builder class. So I guess let's do, what does this return though if it's empty? Handler class null. Right. I don't know actually what that would be. As raw provider. I'm not going to add that. We don't have any checks for it, so I'll just leave it there. So what do we have in our schema is, so extension.neon. Oh, this is our, so let's minimize. Our schema just is, it's just Drupal root and Drupal mapping, which could be a structure of class or storage. So I guess we don't have, so test fixtures. That should be inherited as well. Dynamic constant names. The stubs. I guess that's really it. Now the hard part will be spinning it out as a neon file when we just have access to Symfony YAML, and it might not work out the same. So let's do let's rename this to be, yeah, that's just the parameters. I'll say config equals parameters equals YAML. Sure, we'll use YAMLs. We'll use the Drupal YAML, so that way it's forward compatible. Yes. Big. This IO. Right line. All right, let's just see what happens with this. Well, that's not what you want. Configure a non-static class. What? Oh. Well then, configure is a static method. Go figure. I didn't notice this little error, so generate. Oh, man. Setup. Setup is allowed. So let's do setup. Setup is another good word, I think. All right, so that's not the right. There we. Oh, sweet. Yes, I do want to run that instead. All right, so we've got the generated, so parameters, paths. Oh no, paths should not be web. What we want is web modules, custom, themes, and profiles, custom. Because that's technically what you should be scanning by default, and the idea is to provide a best practice output, so that way people can just run this command and have it written and be good to go. So parameters level 2, paths, entity. Let's go ahead and add that command to write, which author option. Option raw. Oh, and it's like in, okay. Option output file. Yeah, option file. Well, we don't want a file because like the file's a name, unless we want to update the file. Sure. Just file and I guess it's then options equals file null. So let's say if options file is not equal to null, file path equals real path, options file, if file path, what is it? This can return false on error, correct? I got too many stubs that I have no idea what works or not. String or false. So if file path is not false, we can do this IO. I just want to debug it first. Right line, file path. And then we do else. Okay. Setup, and then file is so that's the hard part, is supporting a relative path. So there's got to be in Drush some kind of service for resolving like a relative path. So internal styles runtime, no. Drupal commands SQL. You know what? SQL. Nope. Core theme commands. Batch CLI deploy hook Drupal commands. Relative to the Drupal root or wherever it's being executed. So if I say like, it's the hard part. Drush says the current working directory is /web, but if I pass just phpstan.neon, like it should resolve that as a path. So if I did dash dash, it works. But if I do this, it doesn't because Drush thinks I'm in the doc root, and maybe that's okay. And maybe Drush makes you specify paths relative to the doc root and not relative to the doc root, not like the project root, which is the other super confusing thing about Drupal. But let's do config export destination arbitrary directory. A backup is used for the when no value is default value is provided. Save files in a backup directory. Name config export. Let's look at that real quick. Commands, core. Config export. Oh, it's config right. Oh my goodness. Where is this located? Config export. Here we go. Destination. Destination self optional. Okay. Config commands, get directory. Directory is null. Well, that's so I want to use Webflow Finder because we have that available. But the thing is that if directory is equal to true, else Drush make directory. This does not path canonicalize buffer this get home directory. I can't remember now. Oh, I guess what we have to do is we could say if this doesn't exist and assume it's relative to the web root, or I don't know. All right, see ya. Thanks for tuning in. I'm going to suffer more over this path. Why destination directory? Bum, 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 bum. Print file. How's this get used? Only for art. Oh, that's a whole thing. Command data, get annotation data path. It's just what I don't know what I'm exactly looking for. That's the problem. I just want like a magic bullet that says put it here. Commands. Backend path evaluator. This get path options local only path target root. Oh, hold on. Let me try this. What does this give? When I do php vendor bin drush directory root. Well, I guess that's the best I can do. This get path, host path create. So targets and the dd command. We will assume implicit local only. Host path create this site alias manager, this path evaluator, evaluated path. resolve, this lookup. And this just calls itself with JSON on core status, which I tried here. JSON, right? Nope. What? Get output as JSON. Oh, it's format equals JSON. Core status fields paths. I see. Okay, so this does not even return. So path evaluator, this backend path evaluator. Miscellaneous. Evaluate this resolve path replace. Okay, that's way too much. So let's just let's try with if I just don't like this retry part. Essentially it would be like file path equals real path options file. It's something like that. Bar incompatible. Try using dir name. No, because we don't want that to actually exist. Let's just see. I'm going to rerun the command. So we could just duplicate this again. Oh. Error cannot. Oh, wait a second. Duh. If it doesn't exist, I guess we would just have to write to it and then they would know. So never mind. Never mind, never mind, never mind. I guess it doesn't matter because we're not looking it up. So let's just do file, put contents, options, file, config. Let's just run it. So if I look at the phpstan.neon, did not write it because it wrote it to here. And we're not going to use the core YAML. So we're going to use the Symfony one to try. Dump. Inline. Indent. Number of spaces. Is there a way to use a dumper indentation 4? I want to use tabs. Is there a way to use tabs? Flags of YAML dump. Dump object. And this is where then we would need to make a dependency on the neon library, and that may not go over very well. So if we look, we no longer have dependencies on the net framework. So this may not be a good idea. Dump. No. Parse object. Symfony YAML tabs over spaces. Oh, because YAML doesn't support tabs, but NetNeon supports it. Okay. That's not the greatest. Shoot. Because we want to use a neon file. If we want to use neon encode, big, it is now namespaced inside phpstan, which we cannot do. But if I were to run this command again and say oh, because it can't be found, because it can't be auto-loaded outside of that autoloader. Well, maybe this won't work after all. Hub.com. Not. Again, we're trying to reduce the amount of dependencies. And that would involve adding this, which might be a problem. Encoder. Yeah, that's not going to work. That's not what I was hoping for. Encode, block mode, indentation. Well, I guess maybe I can fake this. I got it there. It's not like I want to do it, but encoder, block mode, indentation is a T. Encoder, there's a value to node. Val, neon entity, else literal node, the value, encode, and then to string. So it will return new line. So, let's see. I don't want to make it that intense. Because we don't need to parse. We don't need to be able to parse this. We just need to be able to dump it as a neon. So I need to think for a second. So to value node, value, and value is value should be decode file. Oh, else if is object. Here we go. Node, new block array node. This array to nodes. All right, array to nodes for each val, array item node, blah, 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 blah. All right, so if instance of sets the indentation, self value to node, so it just loops over. So let's try this out. No idea how well this is going to work. So if we do config out, we'll say output equals, and for each this isn't, yeah, for each we have to do, it has to be array of nodes, each value to node, which then is recursive. So for each config as key value, we do output sorry, I think this is going to be a wasted effort because I'm going to be reinventing the neon encoder without wanting to bring it in. Let's just try real quick. So we have key. So this would actually be key and a colon. If value, if is array value, output and to new line, and T for a tab. Let's just see what to array will always evaluate to true. Yes, it will always evaluate to true phpstan. Oh, because we have parameters and it doesn't iterate. So let's do this. Let's so we have parameters and a tab. I just broke that. So we do each parameters because we're not going to use config. All right, not the best, but this is going to be a bit broke. This is going to be very broken. To do this is just silly. Reinventing neon encoder so it's not a Drupal dependency. All right, well, I'm at least going to push this as a commit. It's interesting to say the least. Add command for configuring phpstan via Drush. Add Drush command for configuring phpstan. I'm on main. Let's not do this on main. New branch. That would have been very, 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 very bad. GitHub 343. Okay. Let's do commit and push. Two warnings. Yeah. Commit and push anyway to 343. and GitHub PR create because this is way faster. Although I forgot to say it fixes. Edit fixes 343. Real quick annotations for myself. That so we'll say use Drupal Finder instead of hard coding web, because like Acquia requires you to use docroot instead of web. It's just a carryover from Drupal 7 and so forth. Look into this. Should we drop default entity type mappings? Otherwise, evaluate what to do here. We need to dump as neon, but that would add a dependency which could be frowned upon by the Drupal core maintainers. Luckily, DrupalCon is in 2 weeks, so if I don't get this done, I can at least chat with some core maintainers there to get their feedback. So that's at least resolved, or not resolved, started. Let's get this going. Releases. I'm going to take a new release. Was right. What do we have? 7 commits. Let's look at them. So, not one that's 16, or auto generate. So entity query count, and then some housekeeping. Let's create a discussion and publish. Cool. So thanks for hanging out with that and going on the journey with this Drush command. It's, yeah, time to play some politics and see if I can get a dependency added or find an easy way to generate a neon file. Or you know what? One thing I'm going to try to do actually really quick is, I know I was going to sign off. I tagged the release. I'm happy with that. Let's go back to before I bail. This failed. Tests, linting. So let's do GitHub or git checkout 343 and get the drush command. What if we did the so config equals parameters, and we said output equals YAML decode. First off, why is there 2 YAML files in Drupal core? Core serialization versus the component. Oh, because it allows overriding it. Whatever. Encode config. And what if we did replace spaces, 2 spaces with tabs for neon compatibility. Output equals string replace. Output. Let's try that really quick before I give up. So that seems to work. One way to find out is PHP vendor bin, phpstan, analyze That's not how you spell it. Web modules, contrib. Let's do CDN and CDN that module. Oh, unexpected item parameters. Oh, because I have it wrong. This should be in Drupal. Excuse me. All right. Let's regenerate the configuration. Let's rerun it. Oh, come on now. Parameters, paths, Drupal, entity mapping. Parameters, Drupal. Unexpected. Does this, 1 second, does this not, this has the extension installer, which should have vendor, phpstan, extension installer, source, generated config. Extension and rules. Unexpected item, parameters, Drupal. It's like this didn't. Debug. I want to test this. So if I remove that, okay. So this appears way more broken than I would have thought. I wonder if it's due to this, the generated config, because it's not registering the module at all. Relative install path. Yeah, I think it's got to be due to the symbolic link. So let's real quick. That's what it generated. Let's delete this and do a composer update. And while I wait, let's see why this failed. Line 43. Oh, could have been fixed for all I know. All right, so installed. Removing, installing, upgrading, dev main. All right, we'll install the dev main. All right, so it worked. So it generated and did not cause an issue. Like it works, I think. Cool. So I'm gonna push that up, and let's do get status diff get commit AV. Try to fake YAML as neon. Push. Because the other part that it could do is instead of dumping, I'm gonna make a note of that too. Instead of being used to dump phpstan.neon, could be a supplemental file that gets included into the phpstan.neon for Drupal related items. Well, the linting failed again, and I think that's okay. I'm over time, my time that I like to give myself, 56. Oh, because I gave an extra new line. Whatever. Cool. Thanks for hanging out, and I'm gonna run. I actually took off of work next week, so I think I'm gonna try to do some live streaming on Monday. I'm working on Simply Test Me because I've got a backlog of bugs that need to be fixed. So I think I'm gonna do an early stream on Monday working on that. And then I'll be back Wednesday working on this as well. Possibly might be doing some stuff with the family, but yeah. So thanks for hanging out, and catch you later.